Alright, let me know if you can hear the sound of my voice in the chat room. Let me know if the audio is good. Alright. There it is. Okay. Well, Legends of Tomorrow just happened. That was interesting, wasn't it? Well, interesting. It's one way to describe it, I guess. Okay. Again, we're going to start with Legends of Tomorrow here, and I am going to try to keep my composure. But I'm very angry about what I just watched. And again, you're just getting my initial raw thoughts here, so I don't really have time to compose myself after the episode airs. So if I'm a little bit worked up this time, I apologize. But oh boy, I'm really angry here. And it just, you know what? Let's just start, and I'll explain. Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 3, Blood Ties. Ray and Professor Stein are trying to stop Hawkgirl from dying. Captain Cold and Heatwave convince Jackson to help them steal an emerald bigger than a softball so Cold can give it to his dad and stop himself from having a crappy childhood. And Rip and Sarah try to take Hawkman's body back before Savage can do whatever to it. I could try to do a quick review of the entire episode. I could tell you how I felt about every side plotting character interaction and whatnot. But I'm not going to do that this time, because this episode doesn't deserve it. Instead, I'm going to talk about two specific things that were so absolutely colossally fucking retarded that they made the rest of the episode impossible to enjoy in any way. Number one, we find out that Rip Hunter tried to kill Vandal Savage in ancient Egypt. So that means that he knew where to find Savage in the past. So please explain to me why in the pilot they had to go find Hawkgirl's son, scientist, researcher guy, to help them locate Savage in the 1970s. Why they had to go through all this effort to find clues as to where Savage might be in the 1970s if Rip already knew where and when to find him in a time period when Savage would have fewer followers and no modern technology to fight them with. No guns, no atom bombs, no nothing. Why couldn't they just fight him in ancient Egypt first? Why was that not their first destination? Wouldn't that be a whole lot easier than what they did? Never explained. But as dumb as that was, it can't even hold a candle to number 2. And this one was so bad that if I was not reviewing Legends of Tomorrow for this live stream for you people, it would have made me quit the show entirely. I would never watch it again. Number 2. The climax of this episode is a big fight sequence with Vandal Savage and a bunch of his followers versus the team, where they're trying to recover Hawkman's corpse and also get back the magic knife that can kill Savage, which also happens to be there. Okay? And they win. They win the fight. Rip even succeeds in killing Savage, not in a way that he can't heal and come back from, but for the time being, the guy is down. He's defenseless. Okay? The next scene is the team returning to the time ship with Rip asking Gideon where in the timeline Vandal Savage will show up next. In the last episode, Rip Hunter explained to us quite clearly that if Hawkgirl stabbed Vandal Savage with the magic knife which they have just recovered, mind you, that this would kill Savage for good. No healing, no resurrections, he'd be dead. Permanently. So they have the knife right here. They have Savage unconscious, with all of his followers taken out. And you have Hawkgirl back on the time ship. Hawkgirl, who Palmer has just saved from the stab wound and is now recovering. Who is back on her feet by the end of the episode. So why didn't they simply take Savage's unconscious body back to the time ship, restrain him in case he wakes up, give Hawkgirl the magic knife once she'd regained consciousness, and let her stab him with it then? You could have literally solved your entire problem right there. Your mission would be a complete success. The bad guy would be defeated. Why didn't they just do that? I have no idea. And not only did they not do this, but apparently they just left Savage's body right there and then zoomed off to 1986, because according to Gideon, there's a good probability that he might show up then. Good probability. You know, Rip, there's a 100% probability that Vandal Savage will show up here, now, where you are in the 1970s. You know this because you just came from fighting him. And beating him, for that matter. You know exactly where he is. You even managed to kill him, though the show has explained to us that if you do that, he'll just come back. Unless Hawkgirl stabs him with the magic knife, which could have happened if you just brought his body back to the fucking ship, but you didn't because insulting the intelligence of the audience is these writers' favorite pastime. You just threw away the best opportunity you will ever have to stop Vandal Savage. So what the hell do you think is going to be different in 1986? And why the fuck should I even care after you left his body there when you could have easily stopped him for good? This was bad. This was Season 1 Gotham bad. And even in Season 1 Gotham, I don't think I ever encountered a plot hole this fucking absurd. And believe me, that's saying a lot. And you know what? That's all I care to say about this. The sad part is that the other parts of the episode actually showed signs of improvement. I liked the Captain Cold subplot and the Ray Palmer subplot. They were both good. And Sarah continues to be refreshingly competent, even though there was a huge retcon there, with her urge to kill inexplicably returning after they explained on Arrow just 24 hours ago that John Constantine took care of that shit and it's not supposed to be an issue anymore. But as for the main plot, fuck it. Fuck everything about it. The stupidity at work here that you have to overlook in order to suspend your disbelief is absolutely unforgivable. These writers are stupid, these characters are stupid, this show is fucking stupid, and we should all feel stupid for watching it. Fuck you, Legends of Tomorrow. Fuck you. Good God. Okay, sound off on Legends of Tomorrow. Let's try to keep this short, because I don't want to talk about this any longer than I absolutely have to. I was watching this episode and thinking about the hundreds of ways they could have fixed this and saved Hawkman. Go back a year before you came, give the historian guy a sealed letter saying to send Hawkgirl to kill Savage. Go back to Egypt and strafe his temple with lasers, thus killing him when he was immortal. Go back a year ago and kill Savage with Hawkgirl, thus fixing everything. Go back and strafe the nuke sails, thus killing him, Damien Dark, and almost every terrorist in the world. I mean, I could go on, but those are off the top of my head. Time travel makes this mission a cakewalk if you think about it for 5 seconds. Yeah, absolutely. And this is why these writers should not be writing time travel stories, because they're not smart enough to do it right. The number of plot holes here, if you actually think about it for a minute, is mind-boggling. There are so many ways that they could have pulled this mission off quite easily, but they don't do it because they're stupid. Because the only way these writers can think of to extend the plot, the mission to last the length of a television season is to have the characters act like idiots. I enjoy the show because I look at it as the bad news bears of superhero teams. At some point, they will need to change, but for right now, I'm willing to give it a few passes. Okay, that is your right, I suppose. Go back to Egypt and, yeah, Rip got that part of it right, but just that part. Dark was there too. Yeah, he was there in the pilot, I think. I think the logic they were going by is they left the knife in him so that his recovery and thus his rise to power would be slowed down. But you could stop his rise to power and prevent... You could stop his recovery and prevent his rise to power from ever happening if you just took him back to the ship and killed him there. What the fuck was stopping him? You want to leave the knife in him? Go ahead! Leave the knife in him! Just take his fucking body back to the ship! Then pull the knife out of him, give it to Hawkgirl, and have her stab him with it again! That's all they had to do! That's all they had to do! Love the snart hairdo. Thank you. Luke and Stone, that said, since the person itself established Kendra, the one person who can kill Savage forever, wouldn't have survived a time jump when she was still unconscious. The time jump at the end is, yeah, now that Ifky brings it up and highlights it, I can only laugh in agreement. This episode made me respect Agent Carter so much more. Peggy Carter is a Mary Sue, but at least Mary Sues are fucking competent. Good probability, my black ass. Last week you wanted to know Professor Zoom Reverse Flash Thawne's past. He's an asshole, straight and simple. After he was killed by Barry snapping his neck, Thawne merged with the negative Speed Force. Alright, yeah, we'll see. Okay. I feel ashamed about this kayfabe that TNA needed Grado not to get terminated. It's nonsenseless. What? Why TNA would Grado's firing be pointless is absolute BS in my opinion. Alright, well, we're not talking about wrestling tonight, but whatever. He uses his powers to completely rewrite history, using his reverse speed force powers to wipe his younger whatever. Alright, that's... Well, until they explain how that is in the show, I think it's open to interpretation. Alright, moving on to The Flash now. Flash, Season 2, Episode 12, Fastlane. Team Flash are dealing with a new metahuman with tar powers. That's a new one. While Iris tries to get Wally to stop drag racing. Also, Harry comes clean to Barry about helping Zoom, and they decide to make a trip to Earth 2 at the end. Wow, where has this been hiding? I'm going to try to keep this one relatively short because I think my feelings can be summed up pretty quickly. This episode was really good. And that's because nearly all the things that normally bug me so much about The Flash took the week off. First and foremost, at no point in this episode did Barry act like an idiot. He runs into this new metahuman, Tar Pit, and what happens? What happens? He's confused by the guy's powers, but he doesn't get reckless or fly off half-cocked or run in without having enough information. No. Instead, he listens to Cisco and Caitlin as they science a way to stop this guy. He tries it, and it works. It's that simple. Then, later, they come up with a gizmo that can neutralize Tar Pit's powers. What happens? They lure him out, and Barry doesn't waste any time. He doesn't try talking to Tar Pit, doesn't give Tar Pit a chance to come up with a game plan or put innocent people in danger. He doesn't do any of that stuff. He just uses his powers to speed right up to Tar Pit with no bullshitting around, attacks him just like that, and it works! Now, why doesn't Barry employ this strategy in every single episode? I couldn't tell you because he's so fast that only another speedster could realistically stop him. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, Barry was actually smart this week. He was actually using his brain. The episode works, and all it took was Barry not acting like a fucking idiot for once. And it gets better. Wells has an attack of conscience, and he tells them that he's been helping Zoom. What does Barry do? Get this. He doesn't get butthurt or morally outraged about this. While Joe, normally the level-headed one on the team, is letting his temper get the best of him, Barry considers the situation carefully, decides that Wells was in an impossible situation, and if any of them were in the same spot, they probably would have, and in fact have, done the same thing, and decides to help Wells out instead of condemning him. Wow. How about that? Actual, honest-to-God character growth. This was such a rarity for Barry Allen, I almost couldn't believe it. Something else that was really cool was Wells deciding to tell Barry the truth about him helping Zoom when he did. I thought for sure they were going to drag that out for the rest of the season. So when Wells can't take the guilt of what he's doing and admits to it, it's like, wow, I didn't expect that. I didn't see that coming at all. The timing of it was actually a really good twist, just by playing against expectations and having Wells turn out to be a better person than most of us probably expected. And there are some hard feelings afterward, yeah, but Barry puts those aside in order to make the best decision, the smart decision. And it's such a welcome change from what we usually get. If I have one nitpick about the episode, it was Iris, not shockingly. Now, she and Joe are making progress with Wally, and then Iris brings up the street racing, being kind of pushy about it, and then Wally immediately gets defensive and takes off, so Iris decides that a better way to get through to Wally is to go to the street racing place and be even pushier. I don't expect Iris to handle this situation perfectly, but I have to admit she was kind of bugging me here. It's good that she's concerned about Wally, but her concern was portrayed in such a way that it was, frankly, really annoying to me. But they even give Iris a nice moment to compensate for that. When she tries to shut down the guy who runs this operation, I'm thinking, there's no way to stop this guy from just killing her right here. He could just do that and solve his problem. But she's actually prepared. She went in with a plan, and it's a good plan. Recording their conversation so if he does anything to her, the newspaper knows about it. That's actually really smart. Isn't it so much nicer when the characters act like they've got a brain? And then they kind of redeem the whole Iris Wally thing, too, at the end at the hospital. Joe's trying to connect with Wally, but he's afraid to act like a dad too soon and risk driving him off, which is a perfectly normal response to have when you find out you've got a kid you never knew about. But then they kind of hash that out, and we even get a reason for why Wally was doing the street racing in the first place. And it's not... It's an understandable human reason that made me like Wally more and made me care about his relationships with Joe and Iris more. Good stuff. This whole episode was really good. It was awfully convenient that Tar Pit just happened to show up at the street race right when Iris, Joe, and Wally were all there, but that's the kind of thing you can forgive if the rest of the episode holds up. And it did. This was an unusual episode for The Flash in that the metahuman story was basically the subplot, with the drama between the characters taking the main focus, but with the exception of Iris being kind of annoying in those first few scenes, all the drama worked, I thought, making this just a really good outing. Why can't they do more episodes like this one, damn it? Flash was actually really good this time. Wow, how much questions for Flash. Legends of Tomorrow. This show will only have one season. It's gone way over budget and only has a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. 54%? That high? Really? Wow. To interfere in his research, Eobard falls in love. Eobard falls in love with a reporter who's been hired to interview him and his future self at first. Kills and then wipes the reporter's fiancé. Eventually, every man that she ever dated from existence, after finding out that she did not return Eobard's affections, his future self traumatized. Okay. I guess that happened in the comics. I don't know about the show. What did you think about Flash and Supergirl crossover on March 28th? Do you think Supergirl will be in the same universe, or do you think it will multiverse it? I think they have to multiverse it. Because if Supergirl takes place in the Arrowverse, that would mean that Superman exists in the Arrowverse too, and they've never even mentioned him, which would feel like a huge oversight if he was there the whole time. No, I think they're going to have to multiverse it. Even that's kind of pushing it in my opinion, because really, Flash and Supergirl? Really? Now it feels like they're getting a little too carried away with all these crossovers. And now they're doing it just for the sake of doing it. I don't know. Yeah, Flash and Supergirl crossing over. I hope that the Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens game that comes out in June is good of a game. Alright? The reporter, when she was traumatized as a child, causing her to mute and institutionalized for the rest of her life, so she never met her. Finally, he had his younger son. Okay, learning all about the Reverse Flash here. Do you have any questions about the show? So in 25th century, Flash, as the Eobard Thawne runs past him, Professor Zoom sheds a tear saying it won't last long. You will never find love. You will never be the Flash. Okay. I imagine the same universe, but if they multiverse it, that's just another strike against Legends, since it implies a linear timeline. Oh boy, yeah. I don't know what the time travel physics are on these shows anymore. It's one show on one show it's multiverse, on another show it's linear timeline. So basically, time travel physics are whatever the plots on the whatever the stories on the respective shows require it to be in order to move the story forward. That's all it is. I have seen Men of Steel die and Dark Knight's fall. Safe to say that Superman is somewhere in the main Arrowverse. Well, then why haven't they mentioned him before now? You know? Uh-huh. Killer Frost is Caitlin Snow of Earth 2. Yeah. Yeah. Save Me One. I really liked the ending of the episode with Barry pointing out how everyone was being a hypocrite. Yeah! Is Barry pointing that out? Usually Barry's the one who's being an emotional child. No, he was actually the rational one. I like this. It shows that Barry has actually learned from his experiences. I don't think it'll last, but for this episode, he actually seemed like he was maturing. Barry destroyed my future. It's time I destroyed his thought and decides to ruin Barry's existence. Okay, Flame 9118. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm pretty sure none of this has anything to do with the show, which is what we're talking about. If this is if this is stuff from the comics, okay. But I don't read the comics. So I don't see how it applies to this. Alright? Good guy Barry saved the whole damn show this week because I was expecting everyone to get on a high horse and he shot it down. Yeah, Barry was the saving grace this week. How crazy is that? Usually it's the other way around. I think Iris looked pretty hot in that drag race scene. Yeah, she was nice to look at in those short shorts or whatever it was that she was wearing. She was nice. Okay. Whoa, holy shit. When Wells actually stole 2% of the Flash's speed and it led to him being 1 inch short of saving Iris, I was afraid we were going to see Wells commit to the heel turn and Barry hate him again. The fact that Wells had a conscience suddenly up and told the truth and ditched the steal your speed plan was such a relief for me. I like this Wells and the original Wells whose rep Thawne ruined. Yeah. I like that. I didn't see that coming at all. That was a nice twist. And it was a twist that made sense, too. You didn't have to, stretch your suspension of disbelief at all. It's like, okay, no, he's actually a good person, so he felt guilty. That's all it took. Surprising how easy that is sometimes, isn't it? If you were able to choose a job for me, if you were my boss, I would love to be a wrestler, cop, or teacher. Which of those are one of my dream jobs? What out of those three would you choose? Okay, Tyler Turner. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Okay, we're talking about the Flash right now. Okay, that's how this works. Okay, we go show by show, talking about each one individually, and then afterward we do anything else you guys want to talk about. Okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about here. So please try to limit your questions to the shows that we're discussing at that time, and then afterward we can go talk about whatever. If you're able to choose a job for me, I don't know. You can have whatever job you want, man. I can't hate Iris right now because she's conveniently out of the spotlight, and I don't mind her being bitchy. That's fine. I don't mind her being concerned about Wally. That's good. It's just she was being stupid about it for first half of the episode or so. Okay, he got defensive. He ran away when I mentioned the straight racing, so I'm going to press the issue and without really doing anything differently and hope that works. It didn't work. You just drove him away again. Yeah, they kind of redeemed her at the end also, but with the guy. See, she could be smart too. All right, cool. The fact that Wells, okay, I did that one. Bitchy Iris doesn't annoy me. Iris being some cockamamie love interest annoys me. Also, yeah, she looked hot at the race there. Yeah, this is preferable to her being a superfluous love interest, I'll give you that. Joe flying off the handle was, yes, perfect reaction, because his daughter almost died, and he can't be even keeled all the time. Then Barry showed the heart of a hero and totally impressed me. Yeah, Joe kind of lost his temper there, but it made sense. He's going to be in an emotional place because Iris is in the hospital. Was that before? No, that was after. Yeah. Yeah. So Iris almost died there. So he's gonna be really worked up. He's not gonna be thinking clearly. So his reaction made sense, and so Barry got to be the voice of reason, which is a refreshing change of pace. Barry really stepped his game up in this episode. Everyone else was losing their shit, but he held the fort. Good. When he looked at the bigger picture, realized that the others would have, and Cisco indeed has done similar to what Harry did, then reminded them that, hey, we have an innocent on the line here. Yeah, plus you kind of need Harry's help to stop Zoom. Let's not forget about that part. This has to have been Barry's strongest episode of the season. Oh, unquestionably. Unquestionably. Just hope we can keep that going. Strongest showing possibly the whole series, since most of the time he's an over-emotional wreck. Now let's see how long it lasts. Probably last till the end of that episode. I think I expect regular Barry to be back next week, but we'll see. Yeah, I was wearing the crimson yes shirt instead of the I'll try to be nicer instead of you being an idiot thing. Once again, the shirt is addressed to Barry Allen. I guess it could be addressed to Barry after all. Yeah, why not? Okay, Arrow. Season 4, Episode 12, Unchained. Roy is back in town, being used as a tool by a new bad guy to steal technology with which to build a bomb that could blow up the internet. Just go with it. Also, Thea's going to die unless she kills somebody, and rather than just do the obvious thing, Oliver is considering the most insane course of action imaginable. Also, Nyssa has a cure for Thea, but she wants Oliver to kill Malcolm Merlin first. And still, no one thinks of just calling John Constantine. I don't know why. Okay, I think I know why The Flash was so good this week. Because the stupid was on vacation in Star City. Also in Legends of Tomorrow. At least partially. All the stuff with Roy and the calculator was fine for the most part here, but the Thea storyline, wow, this was frustrating. So whatever magic thing Damien did to Thea is wearing off. She needs to kill somebody or she's going to die. Except she doesn't want to kill anyone. Okay, that's a good dilemma. I'm with you so far. But then they go and mention why this didn't happen to Sarah. Because John Constantine fixed her with magic. So immediately I start wondering why the hell they can't just call Constantine again and ask him to fix Thea. And if you were wondering this too, then just like me, you were out of luck because it never comes up in the episode. They're talking about potentially finding child molesters for Thea to kill. Oliver wants to make a deal with Damien Dark. But you have Constantine's number on your phone. Oliver, call him for fuck's sake. Why does no one even suggest this? Maybe they wouldn't be able to get a hold of him or whatever, but they didn't even bring up the idea of, hey, you know that guy who fixed Sarah's little problem with magic? Maybe we should ask him to fix Thea. He was willing to help us out once before. Why the fuck not? Wouldn't that be preferable to Oliver making a deal with the devil or having to kill Thea's father in order to get the cure? If there's a reason why they can't get Constantine, okay, fine, but tell us what the reason is. Don't just leave it hanging like that. The rest of the episode was good for the most part. I was unclear on what Calculator's motivation was. Apparently, he wants to kill everyone in the city because evil, I guess. Take that part out, and he was a fun villain. The banter with Felicity was amusing. The reveal that he was her father was not that surprising. I think most of us saw that coming. I mean, they already said that Felicity's dad would show up this season, and if not this guy, then who? That's cool with me. I didn't need that to be a surprise, and I'd rather this guy be her dad than Damien Dark. That would have been way too cliched. So this was better. Also, we got Roy back for a week, and it was a really good episode for him. Made me miss Roy a lot. First because he got to tie up a couple emotional threads with Thea. There were some great scenes with the two of them. And also because he got one more mission as Arsenal, and he got to go out with a bang this time, literally. Yeah, that was a pretty harrowing explosion at the end there, where Roy stops the bomb from exploding by blowing it up. Just go with it. But yeah, all the Roy stuff worked great. I had a couple questions about the rest of it. The flashback was weird. Oliver is being tortured until the guys working him over get taken out by Shadow, even though she's dead. Turns out she's in his head, I guess. But if she's just a hallucination, then who the hell took out all those guys? I don't know. Afterward, he still had that thing she gave him, so I'm assuming there was some kind of magic involved here. But how that worked or why it happened, I couldn't tell you. Hopefully they'll explain that later. Excuse me. And then there's some stuff you had to take with a grain of salt. Felicity is back to being her normal, cheerful, jokey self, just 2 episodes after being shot and crippled for life. After just one scene here, I'm thinking, yeah, her PTSD is not going to be a thing. At all. And that's really disappointing because why even do a story like this in the first place if you're going to completely gloss over all the ramifications of it? I'm sorry, but that feels really cheap to me. Yeah, they did have Felicity dealing with it, sort of, but the wheelchair making her doubt herself when she has to give a presentation about this miraculous, world-changing technology that Curtis invented is not quite the same thing as dealing with the emotional fallout of everything that's happened to her. That's not something you get over in just a week. Oh, speaking of that technology, where can I get one of those? Curtis has invented a battery that runs on clean, renewable energy that's smaller than an iPhone and strong enough to power an entire building? Holy shit! What the fuck was Felicity nervous about? This was the biggest slam dunk in the history of slam dunks! I wasn't blowing smoke when I called it world-changing, my god! Market that thing and Palmer Technologies' problems are over because you'll have more money than fucking Christ! You'll have more money than God! Seriously! You'll have the Energizer Bunny out on his ass before lunch! Now, is it in any way plausible that this little battery could do all that? Of course not. It's absolutely ludicrous. But this is a world where reaching Mach 2 means you can time travel, so I don't think any kind of scientific accuracy is what they're concerned with here. This was a hit-and-miss episode. Everything with Roy worked great. The Calculator was kind of a standard villain, but being Felicity's dad makes him a lot more interesting. But I'm still waiting for an explanation for what exactly happened in that flashback, and the Thea storyline would have been poignantly handled if not for that gigantic plot hole hanging over it. All it needed was a reason for why Constantine couldn't help them this time. Like Oliver calls him, but he doesn't pick up because he's in the spirit realm and can't be reached or something. That's all it needed? That's all it needed. Or just a line that said Oliver tried calling him and couldn't get a hold of him. Just something. But since there was no reason, I'm left wondering why they don't just call the motherfucker up and ask him for a favor. So that part was just baffling to me. Willa Holland and Colton Haynes did manage to elevate it somewhat with some nice acting between the two of them, but that plot hole is still there, and it's not going away. So that was Arrow. If I'm correct, isn't Flash and Arrow all about heroes and villains? I guess. Flash and Arrow are heroes, and heroes fight villains. They fight villains pretty much every week, so I guess that would be accurate. Calculator kills whoever is in that grave to set up season 5. That's my guess. Yeah. I think the cool thing about that storyline is that the killer actually could be a few people. I think a Calculator, Damien Dark, and Dig's brother are the main suspects. But it's not necessarily just one person, not necessarily a Damien Dark anymore. I like that. It throws a few question marks into the mix. I was surprised they brought the Calculator out. He's obscure as shit. His thing is he can pull stuff out of digital space. He's basically evil Neo. Sounds like right up Felicity's alley. The Roy thing seems weird to me. The woman you love is dying and you just take off again. No matter the reason, that it's kind of an a-hole thing to do. Well, he can't really run the risk of anyone noticing him and blowing his cover, because if the world finds out that Roy Harper is alive, then they go back to thinking that Oliver is Green Arrow, and that's a problem. So he kind of needed to get out of Dodge pretty quickly. I don't know why he had to leave then. I mean, he could have just stayed in the apartment for a while to be with Thea. There wasn't really a reason for why he couldn't stay in the apartment with her. But the only explanation is the episode was ending and we had to wrap up that subplot because we only had Colton Haynes for one episode, I guess. It blows me away that just calling him John is not an option. You know, a wizard, call him. You know, a wizard. I know. Why can't they just fucking call him? It doesn't make sense. Ugh. I'm just going to assume Constantine's fix wasn't a complete cure, but a placebo, so the bloodlust wasn't all-consuming or lethal. Well, either way, it worked for a while. Sarah was normal for a while. If nothing else, it would buy them some time to find a real cure. Plus, they don't know that it didn't work on Sarah for whatever reason. They don't know that. As far as they're concerned, Sarah was cured completely. There's no reason not to call John. There's no fucking reason. If Malcolm loves his daughter so much, he could just kill himself so Nyssa would give Oliver the cure. Yeah, he could. Will he? Probably not. Because he might love his daughter, but he's still Malcolm Merlyn. Even with all that, it would have been a far better option than anything the others were considering. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, though, getting some pedo or a serial killer and letting Thea run him through is a perfectly fine option. Knock off a serial rapist, done. No loss to humanity. Technically, it's a net gain. I don't know why her killing people is not really an option here. Okay, you know those guys that they beat up in the warehouse where the bomb was? Those guys are all dead. Most likely. Roy told them, hey, there's a bomb about to go off. You guys better go. You guys better get lost. They were all lying on the ground. They probably weren't even conscious. Even if they were conscious, did they look like they were in any condition to outrun the blast radius of an explosion? No, those guys are dead. If they were going to die anyway, why not just bring them to Thea and let her kill them? I don't know. I also love how they literally kill a dozen people, but Thea can't just stab a rapist to death or something. Yeah, John was walking around shooting people. Dig has a gun. He was shooting people. At least some of those bad guys are absolutely dead. Why is Thea killing someone so she can live such a bad thing? As long as you know they're bad people, what's the problem? My dad was a cop. The term used for accidentally killing a child molester during arrest was charity homicide. I like that term. It's a good term. Couple thoughts, guys. One, Roy getting caught would jeopardize the entire team, which would include Thea, even if they found a way to save her, leaving the best thing he could do for Thea. Yeah, leaving was the... Yeah, he was. It was. It still doesn't necessarily explain why he couldn't just stay in the apartment, because no one would have found him in there. Most likely. No one would have been looking for him. Although Calculator was still at large. Might have been looking for him, so it was probably better that he got out of the city sooner than later. But it's kind of a little gray area here that he had to leave when he did. That battery is so insane, I'm surprised it doesn't usher in a technological singularity. This battery ends all energy problems forever. I know, right? And it's small enough to fit in the palm of your hand. Tony Stark's arc reactor has nothing on this. That thing is fucking ridiculous. Do you think Thea is the one in the grave with the flash forward between Ollie and Felicity, possibly implying a final confrontation with Merlin for next season? I don't think so. I think Thea's a red herring. They're definitely trying to surprise us with the identity of the person in the grave, and I think this is all a red herring. Of course, it could be like some kind of ruse to make us think in that direction. I don't think it is. I think Felicity was a red herring, and I think now Thea is a red herring. So we could probably cross them off the list. Well, we can cross Felicity off the list. We could probably cross Thea off the list as well, which narrows down the list of suspects considerably. I still think it's either Felicity's mom or Dig, and I'm hoping it's not Dig. Although the more I think about it, the more that makes sense. So yeah. Malcolm killing himself for Thea. Here's the problem with that. If he just does that, what's to stop Nyssa from letting Thea die to spite him? Well, I think we've seen... the person that we've seen Nyssa to be wouldn't do that. I don't think... she is in the League of Assassins, but she doesn't seem like an unnecessarily cruel person. She has a heart. And plus, she has no... She has no reason to hate Thea, really. The only thing you might be able to point to is, okay, Thea was technically the one who killed Sarah, but she did that because she was hypnotized by Merlin, and also, Sarah's not dead anymore. So, she really has no reason to hate Thea. I think Malcolm being dead is what she wants. No, honestly, I think she just let them have the cure if Malcolm died. For all she knows, that last one could be true, plus the perp was in jail on a false accusation unbeknownst to any of our heroes. Wait, I missed something. Hold. Here we go. I think Thea might be in that grave, but so glad Roy came back. Really missed that guy. Yeah, I don't think it's Thea. I really don't. I think they're just trying to make us think it's Thea, and then they're going to take it back, and it'll be someone else. It reminds me of a sci-fi novel where the heroes discover a fuel source millions of times more efficient than gasoline. If you don't see the fatal flaw there, imagine how flammable gasoline is. Now multiply it millions of times over. That's called energy density. A battery with that kind of energy density would explode like a few dozen A-bombs if it ever leaks. Yeah, it's probably best if we don't think about that battery too much. Because the more you think about it, the more insane it sounds. We should probably just call comic book logic on this one and move on. I'm thinking the war coming up in the next episode and Ollie having to kill Malcolm to stop it is at least enough of a justification that Nyssa can't renege on her part of the deal. Yeah. Plus, like I said, Nyssa is not a sadistic person. I mean, she's vengeful to a certain point, but I don't think she would let Thea die just to spite a dead man. I mean, once he's dead, she got what she wanted. 3. Why are we so gung-ho about having Thea kill whoever Malcolm tells her is insert criminal here? Yeah, he could, he could just find some person on the street and says, here, this guy's a rapist, you can kill him. Yeah, but Malcolm is not the most trustworthy person in the world. For all she knows, he could be bullshitting to clear her conscience. For all she knows, the cops are about to stumble onto the evidence they need to put them away. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The only other option is that we go with Nyssa's claim that killing Malcolm will get them a cure, and you have literally zero reason to even begin to believe that bull. Nyssa has not only lied before, she's got every reason to see Thea die and kill Malcolm for nothing since Thea killed her lover. Technically, yes, but she killed Sarah because Malcolm hypnotized her and used her as a puppet. And also, Sarah's not dead anymore. So she's got no reason to be mad about that. Sarah doesn't hold a grudge against Thea. I don't see why Nyssa would. So, yeah, I think they have enough of a reason to think that Nyssa might be lying because she hates Malcolm Merlyn, but it appears that she might not be. She's probably not lying in this case, so I'm not going to make a big thing about it. For all she knows, the perp could already have been arrested and put away, and Malcolm purposely broke him out of jail just so Thea could kill him. For all she knows, that last one could be true. Plus, the perp was in jail on a false accusation unbeknownst to any of our heroes. Not to mention, how long would it take until random vigilante killings of suspected sex offenders and criminals start making the rounds and somebody in or above the SCPD decided to call another manhunt? Mm-hmm. Sean Simon. You got it wrong about Sarah. The only thing Constantine did was get Sarah's soul. Did nothing about the bloodlust. The bloodlust never left, so Constantine couldn't help. Do you know that? That's not what Team Arrow believes. They actually brought this up. They said, okay, this never happened to Sarah. No, it didn't, because Constantine fixed her. That's what they said. So as far as they know, that's what happened. As far as they know, Constantine fixed Sarah. If that's not the case, okay, but they don't know that. What they know to be true is that Constantine fixed Sarah. So there's no reason not to call him. The same battery that was in Gemma Simmons' cell phone. Well, maybe not the same battery. Simmons had a battery that could last for a couple of months. I don't know but it did eventually run out of power. And I'm pretty sure it would have run out of power pretty quickly if it had to power an entire building. Okay, forget about that. Have Thea kill some Shadow Spire grunts who you know are evil mercenaries, not suspected known criminals. Problem solved. Okay, that would work too. If you were thinking about checking out Gotham Season 2, then don't, as Fish Mooney is returning. Yeah, I heard about that. I'm not going anywhere near that show now. Or have her fight some League grunts, again, known criminals, no doubt. Yeah, and the League of Assassins suck. They get their asses kicked constantly. Probably be easy to subdue one. I'm just saying. They got their asses kicked in this episode, too. Or shit, have her kill Anarchy, a violent psychopath with no empathy who apparently wants her to kill him. Yeah, well, they'd have to capture Anarchy again. But if they could, I guess that would be a possibility. Gotham is way better in season 2. Well, it couldn't possibly be much worse. I should hope it's gotten better in season 2. It had nowhere to go but up. Okay, and that's going to be it for Arrow. And finally, we move on to Agent Carter. Season 2, Episode 4, Smoke and Mirrors. We learn about Peggy and Whitney Frost through a series of flashbacks. Meanwhile, in present day, but also somehow in the past, Peggy captures and interrogates the assassin from last week and lets him escape so they can follow him. He leads them to Whitney Frost, who kills him with her creepy dark force powers as the crack in her face gets bigger. How you felt about this one probably depends on what you're looking for from this show. The flashbacks were really interesting in that it's great to see how these two women became what they are. Especially nice to see Peggy in a different light. That's something that the show could use more of, frankly. And it also gives them this weird connection as they've kind of been living parallel lives to a certain extent. As kids, they both wanted to be something other than what they were, but they weren't allowed to be because they're women and society expects certain things from them in this time period. Then Peggy finally got the opportunity to be what she was meant to be and embraced it and became that person that she wanted to be in defiance of societal expectations, whereas Whitney Frost kind of used those expectations as a mask, see what I did there, to hide what she really wanted to be, eventually becoming really frustrated and bitter. It's all really good character stuff, actually. And if that's not what you watch the show for, however, you may have gotten impatient with this one, because it does not end up being another... It does end up being another action-light episode. There are very few action beats... Can't talk all of a sudden. There are a few small action beats when Peggy and Jarvis capture Mr. Hunt, but that's really it. Not that character-centric episodes are bad at all, but we had a low-key episode last week too, so I found myself wishing for a fight scene at certain points, or a car chase, or some action of some kind. I wonder if they had taken the flashbacks, which, again, were very good, and put them in a different episode, so the present-day scenes were a bit more exciting. It might have worked better. There's good comedy and dialogue and all that stuff, and all that works just fine. But it's the second episode in a row where it doesn't feel like the narrative progressed that much, and that's what I'm having trouble with. Peggy and Jarvis capture this guy at the house. They interrogate him. They capture this guy at his house. They interrogate him with Sousa. Their attempt to raid the Arena Club got shut down by Red Foreman. I'm still not sure how they got the warrant in the first place, though. So they let Hunt escape. He leads them to Whitney Frost, who they already knew was no good anyway. And that's the episode. And again, it's not that any of this was necessarily bad or poorly written. It just doesn't seem like anything out of the ordinary, I guess. Another thing, I couldn't figure out how they got that search warrant. Peggy and Jarvis acknowledged that they're committing a felony here by taking Hunt hostage, the way they did. And they even tried to keep it a secret from Sousa, so he had plausible deniability, and he's not happy when he learns about that, though he ends up helping them anyway. And then they get a search warrant for the Arena Club, based on information they got from this guy while they're holding him illegally against his will. How did they get the warrant? Why did the judge sign off on that? Okay, with spy stuff you can fudge details like that, but if you're going through normal legal procedures to get a search warrant, that's harder to accept. Was the justice system just more flexible back in the 1940s, so people could get away with stuff like that? I don't know. Also, this thing with Peggy and Wilkes, I'm not buying it yet. These two are attracted to each other. Okay, fine. But it seems like the writers are hammering that nail pretty hard. And it just feels like it's coming out of left field a little bit. These two are just like inexplicably drawn to each other. Like there's this crazy chemistry between them. Like that scene where they look like they're about to kiss. Like they're talking and they're like inching closer and closer to each other, even though Wilkes is still intangible. Really? Does that seem like Peggy Carter to you? Does that seem like the person we know her to be? That she would act like this about a guy? I don't know. I found that stuff awkward. I get the impression that the writers really wanted to give Peggy a new love interest, but since they only have the length of a mid-season break series to develop the relationship, they're in kind of a rush with it, and so they go so overboard with trying to push it that it almost feels out of character somehow. I find it a little hard to believe that these two would be so into each other so quickly, especially when Peggy has not been shown to act like that before, not even with Cap, really. Thankfully, they keep that confined mostly to one scene this week. It's hard to rate this episode. All the flashback stuff was great. I really dug everything we learned about Peggy and Whitney and how they became who they became. The rest of it was not necessarily bad, just not as exciting as I wanted it to, as I would like. I think more action would have helped with this. Maybe if we got some kind of big plot revelation about something we didn't know about until now. I do like how dark Whitney is getting, even though any similarities with Madame Mask from the comics are pretty much out the window at this point, as far as I know. But let's get the narrative moving. Let's get some real tension in there. They've got a really good setup for an evil plot. And I think it'll be cool once they get to it. I just want them to get to it a little faster, Or at least space out these lower key episodes so we don't get them one after the other. Because getting two in a row like this kind of slows the pacing down. The Peggy Whitney backstory stuff is great, but I think a more action-heavy episode after last week would have worked better at this point in the story. I didn't notice how bad the League was at first, but now I can't help but notice it. You're welcome. Glad I could point that out for you. I think Marvel is taking your villains suck criticism to heart in a really big way. First Kingpin, then Kilgrave, and now Whitney Frost. It's hard to find fault with the TV villains. Yeah. Yeah, the TV villains tend to be much more fleshed out, much more complex. I think the movie villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are the ones that have problems with being just kind of two-dimensional, genocidal, I want to kill everything because evil type of characters. That's why Loki was so great, because Loki had more substance to him, and he was not just the kill them all and let God sort them out type. Loki has layers, and he's charming and he's not unsympathetic. So that's why people kind of gravitate to Loki. But he's kind of the exception that proves the rule with the Marvel movies. But with Marvel TV, the villains are a lot better. Kingpin was fantastic. Was a magnificent character. Kilgrave was. I could have used a little more dimension with Kilgrave, but he was also really interesting. And Whitney Frost is another one. She has a sympathetic backstory, even if she's going to the dark side now. We know where she's coming from. And we kind of sympathize with her even if we can't forgive what she's doing. So the TV villains in the Marvel Universe are a lot better than the movies. I'm torn about this Agent Mary Sue episode because of how bad Legends was this week. On the one hand, Peggy was being held back by her boyfriend and his evil, evil penis because no woman ever did anything before third-wave feminism. Eleanor Roosevelt, who the fuck is that? And we're excusing Madame Mask's sociopathy by saying it's evil men and their evil penis which made her that way, as opposed to, mental illness. On the other hand, I can't really criticize the basic plot, and nothing horribly bad or offensive happened, just irksome. Yeah. Okay. Even if the chauvinism of the time period still bothers you, and I can understand if it does, the way they portray it. Because they don't, even if it's not as overt as it was in season 1, they're still hammering that in. They're still hammering that in with a sledgehammer. Yeah, I think a lighter touch would be justified at this point, but yeah, they're still hammering away with it. So I can understand if it still bothers you, but like I said, the rest of it. Most of the episode was okay. It just, I wanted more bang for my buck. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it was absolutely better than Legends of Tomorrow. Absolutely. Nothing was going to be worse than Legends of Tomorrow this week. Nothing. I might be mistaken, but I think the writers said the person in the grave is someone that's been with the cast since season 1. Did they? Haven't heard that. Oh, well, guess that means it would either be Dig or Thea. I guess Malcolm, but well, they wouldn't be upset if Malcolm died. If that's true, then I'm thinking hard about Dig right now, which sucks. I thought it was another strong episode as it continued to flesh out the compelling big bad in Whitney while also telling the deeper story of Peggy before she met Steve. Yeah, it was really interesting to see Peggy back then. How she was kind of confined to societal expectations of women, and she actually seemed okay with it. She got the opportunity to be a spy, and at first she says, "Nah, that's not for me. I'm getting married. I'm not going to be a spy. I'm a code breaker. I'm happy with that." And it actually took her like a big life-changing event to convince her to go for it. I thought that was really interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Love how mercilessly cold and deadly Whitney is. Not to knock Dottie, but finally a worthy opponent, which, by the way, I want to see show up again before the season ends. Oh, god damn it. Dottie is a worthy opponent, damn it. It's just she's being held back by the writing. Dottie should be a worthy opponent for Peggy, god damn it. At least in a physical sense. I'm not happy with the way that they've kind of had her be Peggy's bitch. And she could put up a fight, yeah, but Peggy keeps beating her. I want to see Dottie win a fight. I mean, she's a fucking Black Widow. She should be able to win a fight against... I mean, Peggy's a great fighter, but she's not unbeatable. I don't think it's unreasonable for her to lose a fight against a Black Widow. And yes, I want to see Dottie come back too. Dottie's fucking awesome. And I do, but I like what they're doing with Whitney here, because this is somebody that Peggy can't necessarily fight hand to hand, because if she does, she'll get absorbed by Dark Force or whatever. So she can't necessarily win this. She can't necessarily beat Whitney Frost by fighting her, and that's Peggy's go-to solution usually. So she's gonna have to come up with something else. Better see Dottie again, goddammit. So yeah, I guess Peggy wins this week, if only because she's not incompetent and reliably written. Okay. Wow, you must have hated Legends of Tomorrow a lot if you're actually siding with Peggy against that show. Normally, you can't stand Peggy. Congrats, Peg. You squeaked it out because you didn't trip over your feet and faceplant like Legends. Yeah. Yeah, Legends really tanked hard this time, didn't they? I thought that Peggy and Whitney's flashbacks were well done this week. It gave us a lot of info on the characters. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. Everyone all the reviews I've read were pretty much like universally praising the flashbacks. They were well done. Certainly the best thing about the episode. It was the other stuff I had a bit of an issue with. And okay, if you guys have anything else you want to ask me, go for it. Give it another couple of minutes to see if any questions show up, and then we can call it a night. Okay. Looks like that's about it. And, oh wait, okay, I gotta ask this question. Who are the bigger contrived idiots? The Legends of Tomorrow or the League of Nations? Well, I think with the League of Nations, you could make the argument that they're just taking their marching orders from the Authority. So they have a bit of an excuse. I don't think the Legends of Tomorrow have an excuse. No, they're pretty dumb. And not that the League of Nations are particularly smart, but at least there are people above them who are dumber than they are. Will you watch up on Heroes Reborn? Oh man, honestly, I don't know. I think the first part of the flashback episode was the last one I saw. When they went back to the day of the explosion, and I think it ended with HRG chasing someone through the hospital and running into himself. That was the last one I saw. I don't know if I'm going to watch the rest. Honestly, this whole series revival has been really uninspired in my opinion. It looks like it was just a cash grab, if I'm being perfectly honest. It didn't seem like their hearts were really in it. It's just something they did for the money. They obviously didn't have a huge budget this time. The whole thing just feels really half-assed. And it's become clear that they didn't learn from the mistakes of the previous series. And that's a big strike against it. I might watch the rest of it at some point, but I just don't feel the urge to right now. Do you think we will see time travel episode of Carter and S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point? Oh, Lord, I hope not. I have more confidence in the Marvel writers to pull off something like that, but I honestly, I would prefer they just not go there. After watching Flash and Legends completely fuck up time travel, I'm gun shy, man. I don't want to see it. Shooting missiles inside of a heart is like totally not deadly. Killing is wrong, but apparently flamethrowers don't kill because no one complains about Heatwave. Well, in this case, Heatwave is using his flamethrower on bad people. I guess Palmer had reason to believe that that those missiles that he was firing off would not hurt Kendra any more than the shrapnel in her bloodstream would. And plus, she was going to die anyway, so why not go for it? I might have an idea where you're going with that one, TJ, but please elaborate. The Heroes Reborn finale was really good, worth checking out. Okay. Maybe maybe I'll just try to find a plot synopsis somewhere and see if it's worth watching the rest of the episodes. I don't know. I mean, he's a narcissistic sociopath whose every thought seems focused on himself. He manipulates people, lies without compunction, seems to feel no regret or empathy at all. Who are we talking about here? The shooting missiles theme I get because the explosiveness of the missiles was probably condensed to go along with their decreased size. Yeah. Could be a one and done episode. That would help. Alright, one and done episode. Like, if they find an inhuman with time travel powers, and he fucks with thing briefly and then gets killed off, that might be okay. Again, I'd prefer they just not go there, though. Do you remember Spider-Man having beef against villains like Carnage, Venom, Rhino, Sandman, Dr. Octavius? I do. Also, if memory serves me correctly, wasn't Whitney Frost a part of the X-Men at one point? No, that was Emma Frost. Totally different person. I'm not sure what Spider-Man and his rogues gallery have to do with this. Explain. I don't know. Stein irks me. He seems completely fine with deceit and using people like they belong to him. Well, I think Stein just has a bit of an ego problem. He's usually the smartest guy in the room, and he doesn't necessarily have a lot of patience with people who are wasting his time or not as smart as he is, I think. He's working on it. Plus, I mean, they are trying to stop a guy from taking over the world, I'm okay with him using people if it helps them do that. I don't see anything wrong with it. He seems to have some remorse for tricking Jax into joining in the earlier episodes, so I don't think Stein is void of compassion or empathy or anything. No, they hashed that out. He felt bad about it. And, he gave his reasons, and Jax understood. No, I think that's... I don't blame Stein for that. And you know what? I think that is going to do it. Because I have to be up early tomorrow, so I can't go too long here. So I think we're going to cut that off at this point for tonight's live stream. Well, one more question. And yeah, he was working on that ego problem. Seeing his past self was a painful reminder of how bad he was before, and proof that he has mellowed out in time. Yeah. See, that character development was good. That part was well done. Sort of. Just most of the rest of the stuff that's going on is really dumb. And, yeah, that'll be it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Stay tuned for the Impact stream. Excuse me. Which will, again, be done on Saturday afternoon. Not sure what time. I'm going to play that by ear. And so watch my Twitter for updates on that Saturday. And then I will see you back here next Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, where we'll talk about these shows again, and hopefully Legends of Tomorrow will have pulled its head out of its ass by then. I'm not holding my breath. So, thanks everybody for joining me. Good night.